How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Infinite Sports. I'm your host, Kenneth Grunfelder. And here we are. We have now made it to week one of the NFL season. I hope everybody's doing well. So I'll be giving my picks for each game in week one. We'll also recap last night's game as well. We'll start off with that between the Philadelphia Eagles and the Dallas Cowboys. So this game got off to the weirdest start I think anybody has ever seen because you had an injury and you also had an ejection before the first snap. Well, there was the kickoff, but you know what I mean. The first play from scrimmage, because what happened was, as teams were getting ready, Dallas was huddled up. You had Jalen Carter, the Eagles, kind of looming outside of the huddle, the Cowboys, and Dak Prescott. Now we didn't see this till later on in the broadcast, but Dak Prescott, you clearly see him spit, not at Jalen Carter, but he just spits, on the ground. Now, after the game, Dak says, I wasn't trying to hit Jalen Carter. I was trying to spit on him. So then, Jalen Carter gets in Dak's face, and he spits on Dak. And there's an official right there, and Jalen Carter gets ejected from the game before the Cowboys even run a play. And again, we were going through this whole game thinking Jalen Carter just walked up to Dak and spit on him, when in fact Dak Prescott started it first. Now, Dak's intention was, he wasn't trying to spit on Jalen Carter, but he did that on purpose, because you see the face that he made, and you see the head nod he gives to Jalen Carter when he does that. He, again, wasn't trying to spit on Jalen Carter, but he was definitely doing it to get a reaction out of Jalen Carter. And that led to Jalen Carter spitting on Dak. And we've seen this, we see this in life. Sometimes the first guy gets away with it, the second guy gets caught. And that's exactly what happened. Now, it's different. It's different because Jalen Carter spit on Dak. Like, Dak spit on the ground. So, yeah, I mean, we can all assume, like, you look at the faces, the facial expressions that Dak made, it was intentional. He was trying to, get under Jalen Carter's skin. But he wasn't spitting on Jalen Carter. He spit on the ground. Jalen Carter spit on Dak. So that led to an ejection. And you saw later in the game a taunting penalty was called against the Eagles. The NFL is really cracking down on things like that, which I don't necessarily. I mean, some gestures are inappropriate more so than others. But, I mean, it's just the players can't do anything. They can't celebrate at all. You can't do, the double point after you get a first down, or after a big play, you get a taunting penalty. It is a little bit ridiculous. But they really want to crack down on these type of gestures, which, again, it's ridiculous. Because these guys like to celebrate. These guys like to have fun. Now, obviously, when you spit on somebody, yeah, that's different. But, like, if you're just doing this, or this, like you're pointing for signaling for a first down, like you're gonna call taunting? Like, come on. I get it. Jimmy Graham, all those years ago, he did it. He dunked on the goalpost, and the goalpost went like this. I get it, but guys, come on, ridiculous. I get it in certain aspects, and then also, like, if a guy's standing over a player after they make a catch over them, I don't know. I'm mixed on it. Like, I understand it for certain things, but other things that happen over the course of a game, I don't agree with. But yeah, so Jalen Carter gets ejected right away, so he's out. And I think he should have got his ear chewed off by Nick Sirianni, or just anybody, because how could you do that? How could you do that? You got to know that you're being rage baited there. All right? It's the first game of the year, I get it, but this is a divisional game. And this game could mean a lot down the line, depending on what kind of season Dallas has, depending on what season the Eagles are going to have. The Eagles are going to be very good. Dallas, look, I think their offense is going to be very good, but, especially adding George Pickens, who didn't really have that good of a game last night, but that's okay. He's going to have good games this season. But their defense, I mean, yeah, was not good. Was not good. But the Cowboys, I mean, they took advantage of Carter being out right away. I mean, they just kept running the ball down the Eagles' throat. Javonte Williams had a very good game last night, a couple of touchdowns. Well, he had a very good first series, I should say. I mean, he really only finished with what, like 60 yards on the ground. Take a look. But yeah, no, he had a couple of touchdowns. Now 54 yards on the ground, a couple of touchdowns. Look, the Cowboys, their offensive line, like obviously Zach Martin retired. It's not the same offensive line that it was all those years ago. But I mean, they got a lot of guys that they selected, early in these past, 3 or 4 NFL drafts, to rebuild this offensive line. And the offensive line did a good job. Did a good job last night. It was giving Dak time. I thought Dak looked good last night. What snake bit him was the drops. There were drops in big moments, and it was from CeeDee Lamb, and also also the tight end. He had a touchdown, but that was a hospital ball, as people like to say. But CeeDee Lamb was just unguardable last night. I know the drops came in big moments, but he was unguardable last night. They did a Dory Jackson on him. They had another player on him that they got from the Raiders in the secondary for the Eagles. Because you got to remember, no more C.J. Gardner-Johnson, no more Darius Slay. He's now in Pittsburgh. Now I know that Darius Slay is obviously older, and C.J. Gardner-Johnson, again, they parted ways with him again. But those are veteran players that have been with the team for a while. And, now you're trying to, reshuffle that secondary. You still got Quinyon Mitchell. You still got Cooper DeJean. But, the secondary might not be as deep as it was last year. And they just could not guard CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee Lamb was having his way with that Eagles secondary last night. And, again, Dak, he finished with 188 passing yards. But I don't know. I think, again, the numbers would have been better had, some of these drops, these guys held on to the ball. George Pickens in his debut, like I said, had 3 receptions for 30 yards. I expect him to be better. He's going to come up big, in certain games for this team. But, in this game, we didn't see a punt until the second half. And it was deep into the third quarter. Every possession was a scoring play. The first 4 possessions of the game were all touchdowns. Cowboys went right down the field. Eagles responded. They went right down the field as well. Jalen Hurts looked pretty good last night. I thought the Cowboys did a good job at limiting Saquon Barkley. He did finish. The Eagles finished with 158 rushing yards, but Barkley only had 60 yards on the ground. Jalen Hurts actually did well running the football. 62 yards on the ground for himself. Will Shipley made a couple of plays. We saw a little bit of A.J. Dillon last night. He completed a nice pass to Jahan Dotson for 50 yards. I think that was in the first half. A.J. Brown only got limited to 1 catch for 8 yards. And then Devontae Smith only had 3 for 16. So really, the Eagles' top wide receivers really didn't do much in this game. But early, Landon Dickerson, I think it was early on in the game for the Eagles. He had to leave with an injury. So the Cowboys were kind of making Hurts uncomfortable at times, and he had to, move around in the pocket. He had to throw the ball away at times. So there was a little bit of a weakness there on the offensive line there. Eagles defense didn't get to Dak once. There were no sacks for them, and then for the Cowboys, they did get a sack on Jalen Hurts at one point during the game. Now there was a turnover in this game, and it was when the Cowboys were going down the field. They got down to the Eagles' 11-yard line, and Miles Sanders, former Eagle, he ends up fumbling. And that kind of changed the momentum in the game, because I thought then the Eagles were going to just put this game away. But then you had a lightning delay. Well, really bad, just bad weather, all that, severe thunderstorms. Game was delayed until 11:30 Eastern time. So I think it was an hour, over an hour? The delay was. So then they finally come back, and then every single possession after that, other than the final possession of the game for the Cowboys, was a turnover on downs. It was all punts. And CeeDee Lamb had a couple of crucial drops. One of them he should have had. It was Dak put it right there for him. The other one was a little bit tough because he dove for it. He had it in his grasp, but that one was a tougher play that he had to lay out for. And the Cowboys came up short. Look, so my takeaways from this game, look, you don't want to overreact. I don't want to say, wow, Dallas was so impressive. I will say, Dak, I thought, looked fine. Um, Javonte Williams, I don't think he's going to be, their top back the whole year. I mean, I think that could change at any point. But you know what? He's running behind an offensive line, and Dallas wants to run the football. So, you know what? Maybe that could work. I mean, Javonte Williams, I mean, he was the top back for the Broncos at one point. And then, unfortunately, injuries kind of, plagued his career. He tore his knee up with the Broncos. So, maybe gives him another chance. And, Miles Sanders, I mean, he ran the football well for the Eagles, but that was, back when they made the Super Bowl the first time with Jalen Hurts in that core. And then, of course, they go and they got DeAndre Swift the year after, and then they got Saquon Barkley. So, but he had that costly fumble. And he was just nothing for Carolina. Carolina brought him in, and he did not pan out. So, but yeah, I thought Dak looked fine. Like I said, Pickens is going to be more productive. CeeDee Lamb looked awesome. He was awesome last night. And he took full accountability after the game. So, they're playing the Giants next week, so that could be a problem for the Giants. So, the Giants secondary is going to be better, although you saw, Dory Jackson last night, former Giant, going against CeeDee Lamb, and that wasn't going well. Giants secondary should be better, but CeeDee Lamb is going to be a problem next week. And, Dak usually plays well against the Giants. So, but we'll see what that front four brings for the Cowboys. But Dak showed signs of encouragement. He's going to have better games. If he could stay healthy, he's going to have a good year. The problem is, and it's similar to another team, they're literally the same as the Bengals. They got all this offensive talent, but the defense can't get stops. I think the weather delay really hurt both teams because both teams were really in a rhythm offensively, and then it just got thrown off, and there was no scoring. So I again, that's maybe an excuse, but I don't know. Maybe that's just me. So both offenses were in a rhythm. But yeah, Dallas's defense, I mean, they are going to be one of the worst in the league. And Jerry Jones was talking about, we got rid of Micah to help stopping the running game. Well, the Eagles ran the ball for 158 yards. Jalen Hurts had 2 rushing touchdowns. I mean, the Cowboys were doing a poor job at picking up that when he started to take off with the football. Like I said, I think they did a good job of limiting Saquon Barkley. Barkley didn't really have any big runs in this game. He had the touchdown run, but he didn't have any huge explosive plays, any 50, 60-yard runs last night. I mean, I guess you could say they limited the wide receivers, but the defense is just going to be a problem this year. I mean, could it get better? Maybe. I don't know. You got rid of Micah Parsons. Kenny Clark is still a good player, but it's just the defense is just going to be an issue. So the Cowboys are going to have to put up points. Their offense is going to have to be perfect. And it's the same thing with the Bengals. Bengals are going to have to do the same thing. And then on the Eagles side, look, it's inexcusable what Jalen Carter did last night. All right, so the Eagles got to clean that up. And they said it after the game. Jalen Hurts and Saquon Barkley said, they got to clean things up. It wasn't a perfect game. I wouldn't be so concerned about the receivers being limited last night. They're going to have their fair share of games where they're productive. I mean, you do kind of worry about the injuries to the offensive line, because that really, makes this whole offense work. That's why the running game is, well, obviously also because Saquon Barkley is a generational talent. But, you need that for Jalen Hurts. You need that for the running game. You need that for the passing game. So, yeah, we'll see how that plays out. But, I mean, Jalen Carter's not going to spit on somebody every week. So, they'll be better at stopping the run. But you got to remember though, they lost some guys in free agency. They lost Milton Williams, and they also lost Josh Sweat. Milton Williams is on the inside, Josh Sweat, an edge rusher. You lose him to the Cardinals. So, there's some things with the defense that I was maybe a little bit concerned with last night. They didn't. There were a couple of times they could have got to Dak, but he was able to evade it. I don't know how. But and the secondary might not be as deep as it was last year, with some of the guys that they let go. So, but the Eagles are still going to be really good. So it's just one game. You don't want to overreact. But I did take the Eagles in the spreads last night. I know the line went up to 8.5. With my spread pool, the lines don't change. So I probably would have taken the 8.5. But if Micah Parsons didn't get traded, I would have probably taken the Cowboys with the points. But I did not, so I started off the year 0-1. So now, let's move on to, but whatever you guys' thoughts are on the game last night, let me know in the comments. So now, let's talk about the game tonight. So, like I said, I will do my pick straight up and against the spread. So, we got the Chargers and the Chiefs in Brazil, divisional game. Both teams, whenever they play against each other, Herbert and Mahomes, it's always a very close game. And both games were very close last year. Chiefs won the first game 17-10, and the second game was like 17-16. They won on that double doink. And I think this is going to be a good game. This is going to be a good game. The Chargers, I'm a little worried with, obviously, actually, I shouldn't say a little, but Rashawn Slater being out for the year, the torn patella tendon, that's a problem on that offensive line. We're going to get to see the first official game for Omarion Hampton, the running back they drafted. Najee Harris is going to be playing in this game, because he's been dealing with that eye issue, but he'll be active. Keenan Allen makes his return after they traded for him. The Chargers have some young wide receivers they drafted this past draft. Ladd McConkey, let's see how he is in year 2. Chargers defense was a lot better last year with Jim Harbaugh taking over. And then obviously with the Chiefs, they're coming off of that blowout loss in the Super Bowl to the Eagles. How is Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid going to look in this game? Travis Kelce now engaged. How is he going to look now? This could potentially be his last year, right? We'll see. Rashee Rice suspended. He's going to be out, so they're going to be leaning on Xavier Worthy and Juju Smith-Schuster and Hollywood Brown. The running game with Isaiah Pacheco, how is he going to look? Because last year he really didn't play that much because he was dealing with an injury. The Chiefs' defense is good. It's going to be a close game. I got the Chiefs winning a close game. I think the Chargers do cover the number. I think this is a game that's going to be a 3-4 point game, but I think it's going to be like a 24-21 game, something like that. I think both quarterbacks will play well. They'll make their share of plays. But yeah, I got the Chiefs winning. I got the Chargers covering. So now we go to the rest of the slate, the rest of the Sunday slate. So I'm going to try to go through these quickly. So we'll start with the Steelers and the Jets. So Justin Fields and Aaron Rodgers playing against their former teams in Week 1. I think this is going to be a low-scoring, ugly game. I like the Jets to cover. I like the Steelers to win. I just think it's gonna be an ugly game. It's gonna be ugly. And the weather, I see on the weather part of it doesn't look nice, but we'll see. Then we got the Giants and the Commanders. All right, Giants lost 2 close games to the Commanders last year. Their defense is better going into this year. Abdul Carter, we'll see Russell Wilson how he looks in a Giants uniform. Jaden Daniels going into year 2, how is he gonna look? Not only do I have the Giants covering, everybody, I have the Giants winning this game. I think they are going to win this game. They're going to put pressure on Jaden Daniels. All right, that defense is going to get after Jaden Daniels. Look, Terry McLaurin just got his contract situation figured out. All right, he's still not going to be 100%. Now, he's going to make plays, probably will, and we also don't really know what this running game of the Commanders is going to be like. We know what Jaden Daniels is going to bring to the table, but you got these, young players. You got Austin Eckler. What's the backfield going to look like? And I think the Giants are going to be able to move the ball on offense. And they're going to have a kicker for this game. Graham Gano, just don't get yourself hurt on the kickoff. Just don't do that, all right? I think the Giants are going to win this game. I think they're going to find a way. And if not, I have them covering. All right, so I got the Giants in that contest. Then we got a lot of divisional games. Buccaneers, Falcons. Falcons are getting 1.5. This is such a toss-up for me. But I am going to lean the Buccaneers. I think Baker Mayfield, once again, is going to have a big year. A lot of people are very, very high on the Bucs. It kind of worries me a little bit. I like when the Bucs are a little bit under the radar, But I'm really excited to see what Emeka Egbuka does for them because he's going to be their number 2 receiver with, Godwin still on his way back from injury from last year and Jalen McMillan now being on IR. Mike Evans, is going to bring it. Bucky Irving now going in year 2, stud. I think this is going to be a high-scoring game. The Falcons made improvements on the defense. The Bucs did the same thing a little bit. They added Hassan Reddick, to bolster that pass rush. But I think the over/under is 47.5. At least what I'm looking at. This could go into the 30s. And there were 2 high-scoring games last year, and the Bucs lost both games to the Falcons. I think the Bucs win. And I have them covering. Then we got the Bengals and the Browns. Can the Bengals get off to a fast start, everybody? Can they do it? Because they have failed to do it for years now. The Browns are getting 5.5. Joe Flacco making his return. Can he take the Browns on another magic carpet ride? If you remember from a couple years ago, the Browns and the Bengals played each other in week 1, and the Browns won that game. And the Browns, other than last year, they find a way to beat the Bengals in Cleveland. The Bengals seem to have a problem in Cleveland. The number is 5.5. I actually do like the Browns with the 5.5 because I just don't trust this Bengals defense. I think this game could be high scoring. I think I'm still going to probably lean towards the Bengals winning, but I think the Browns will cover the 5.5. And then we got a game, I don't really know what to expect from these teams. The Dolphins and the Colts. So Daniel Jones will be making his start for the Colts. Dolphins coming in. I mean, Mike McDaniel, you have to imagine, is on the hot seat. I'm going to lean towards the Dolphins here, I think, because they usually start off the season good. Like last year, they won week 1 against Jacksonville. They had a comeback win. You know, a couple years ago, they beat the Chargers in that high-scoring game. I know that this could be an emotional game for the Colts because I think they're going to be honoring Jim Irsay. But I don't know. I'm leaning towards the Dolphins. But this game is very hard to pick. I mean, it would not surprise me if the Colts end up winning because I like the pieces they have on offense. Tyler Warren's going to be making his debut. They got the trio of young receivers and Jonathan Taylor. So I like the moves they made on defense in the offseason. But yeah, I'm gonna pick the Dolphins here. And this could be an interesting game. Panthers at Jaguars. Panthers getting 3.5. It's a tough game to pick. I'm leaning towards the Jaguars at home. I'm really excited to see what Travis Hunter does in his debut. Brian Thomas Jr. going into year 2. How is this offense going to look with Liam Cohen? This is a big year for Trevor Lawrence. And then on the other side, we're going to see Ted McMillan make his debut for the Panthers, and Bryce Young, how he finished off the season. He played really well. So this is an interesting game. I am going to lean towards the Jaguars and take and lay the 3.5. I think in my spread pool, it's still it's still 2.5. So I'm going to take. Yeah, it is tough. I'm going to take the Jaguars though. I'm going to take them and say they win and cover the number. Then you got the Patriots and the Raiders. The line actually went down. I think the Patriots were favored by 3. Now it went down to 2.5 against the Raiders. Pete Carroll making his return to the sidelines. Ashton Genty making his debut for the Raiders. Geno Smith is now the quarterback. Patriots made a lot of moves in the offseason, both with the coaching staff and with the roster. They made a lot of moves on defense. They added Stephon Diggs, and now Josh McDaniels is back. Mike Vrabel's now the head coach. I like the Patriots to win and cover the number at home. I'm gonna say that. So I'm gonna take the Pats. Then I'm gonna take. All right, so we got the Cardinals and the Saints in New Orleans. It was 5.5. Now it's up to 6.5. I think the Cardinals are gonna win by more than a touchdown. The Saints are just not very good. And the Cardinals are another team that starts off fast, and Kyler starts off fast. So I'm gonna take the Cardinals, and I say they cover against the Saints. And then I think that's the last early window game. Yeah, so now we're in the late window. Packers at Lions. Packers are favored by 2.5. Packers went 1-5 against their division opponents last year, and the only win was against the Bears, and it was a blocked field goal. So they could have went 0-6. It's so tough. I'm gonna lean towards the Lions. The Packers got to prove to me that they could beat their divisional opponents again. So I'm leaning towards the Lions in that game. Then you got the Titans and the Broncos. Broncos are favored by 8.5. Cam Ward's debut. Look, I talked up the Broncos a lot when we did the show with Ben. Broncos have one of the best defenses, if not the best defense in the NFL. Bo Nix got better and better as the year went along last year. They added Evan Ingram. They added J.K. Dobbins. They drafted a running back, R.J. Harvey. Cortland Sutton had a good year last year. You expect Marvin Mims to maybe take another step forward. They got some other young receivers as well. Troy Franklin, who caught that touchdown in the playoff game last year against the Bills. I like the Broncos to win and cover. I think this is just a tough spot for the rookie in his debut. Interesting game here. Seahawks 49ers. Now, usually I'd probably take the 49ers. Seahawks are favored by 1.5. I think it's 2.5 in my spread pool. I'm going to take the Seahawks. The 49ers, with the injuries, and there's some uncertainties. Now, Christian McCaffrey's on the injury report again. And this is a tough place to play. And the 49ers usually beat the Seahawks in Seattle. Forget when the last time they lost to them in Seattle was. But I'm gonna take the Seahawks here. Darnold's debut. You got Sam Darnold and Cooper Kupp. How are they gonna look? Seahawks looked good in the preseason, and they got a good defense of their own. So I'm gonna take them. It's gonna be a close game though. It's tough. I'm probably gonna get snake bit by that, but I'm gonna take the Seahawks. And then we got the Rams and the Texans. Interesting game. How is Matthew Stafford gonna look after all the talk of his back issue that he was dealing with? They're laying 3.5. How is the Texans' offensive line going to be? Both of these teams have really good defensive fronts. I am going to side with Sean McVay and Matthew Stafford. I think they get it done. They get the win here, but it's tough because again, these are two very good defenses going at it. And Stafford with the injury, how is he going to look? We'll see. But I'm gonna take the Rams. We're going to see Devontae Adams and Puka Nacua lining opposite sides of each other. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch that team this year. C.J. Stroud's got a couple of new young weapons. And who's going to be running the football for them? With Joe Mixon being out. Is it going to be Nick Chubb, Damian Pierce, one of the other running backs? I think Woody Marks, another running back they have. So I like the Rams, though. I'll take them to win and cover. Then we got the best game, arguably, of the weekend. And that is the rematch of the divisional round from last year. The Baltimore Ravens at the Buffalo Bills. The line has changed now. The Bills are the underdog in this game. They are plus 1.5. And in my spread pool, because that was when the line opened, they were 1.5 point underdogs. So it's flipped. I love the Ravens in this spot. I'm taking the Ravens. The secondary should be better. I like the moves they made there with the draft. They also added Jair Alexander. They're a really good team at stopping the run. We know that. And it's a regular season game. Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry are going to get it done here in this spot. I know, look, you got Josh Allen on the other side, and the Bills paid a lot of their guys, how is Keon Coleman going to be in year two? They got a couple of good tight ends and Khalil Shakir. James Cook got paid. The Bills made improvements themselves on defense. So I think this is going to be a great game. But I think the Ravens are going to get revenge here and win this game. But I cannot wait. This is going to be the best game of the weekend. And then I guess I'll do my pick now because we'll recap for the Monday night game. We'll recap all the games and then we'll take a look at this game more so on Monday. But the Vikings and the Bears, interesting game. J.J. McCarthy making his debut. Caleb Williams now with the new coaching staff. Ben Johnson there. How is this game going to be? Bears are plus 1.5. I like the Vikings. The Vikings, to me, I don't want to doubt Kevin O'Connell. Even though Ben Johnson went 2-0 against Kevin O'Connell last year as the play caller for the Lions. But now this is his first time being a head coach. How is that going to translate? I love the Vikings roster. I think J.J. McCarthy is going to have a good year. It's really hard for me to see him not because we haven't seen him play. But it's just, again, because of the roster, with what they have surrounding him. It's an embarrassment of riches what he has around him on offense. And the Vikings made improvements on the offensive line because the interior was a weakness last year. I like the Vikings to win and win and cover. So to go through my week 1 NFL picks. So we'll do the spreads. So Chargers, I got covering the 3. I got the Jets covering the 3 against the Steelers. I got the Giants winning and covering against the Commanders. I got the Lions winning against the Packers. I have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers winning against the Falcons and covering the spread. I have the Browns covering, but the Bengals winning. I have the Patriots winning and covering against the Raiders. I have the Cardinals winning and covering against the Saints. I have the Broncos winning and covering against the Titans. I have the Seahawks winning, pulling off, I guess, maybe an upset against the 49ers, even though they split last year. I got the Seahawks winning in week 1. They're the underdog in this game technically. I got the Rams winning and covering. I got the Ravens getting revenge on the Bills, going into Buffalo and getting the win. And then on Monday night, I have the Vikings knocking off the Bears, winning that game and covering. There's not a lot of big lines. But those are my picks for week 1. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Did I take too many of the favorites? Or were they chalked? Let me know in the comments. So that is pretty much it. And we got the game tonight in Brazil, and then full slate on Sunday, and then we got the Monday night game, of course. And also college football as well, although the slate is not that great tomorrow. Not a lot of huge matchups. But I hope everybody has a good weekend. Enjoy the first week, full week of NFL football. So happy it's back. And as always, everybody, make sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe to the video. Make sure to follow us on the social media platforms in the description below. And you can also listen to us wherever you get your podcasts as well. Just look up Infinite Sports. And as always, everybody, I'm your host, Kenneth Grunfelder, signing off. Have a good one, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Take care.